there. Sad to turn on the microphone. Hello, folks. Hey, we got a twofer today. I put up 2 pages today. There is number 1, and there is number 2. This was suggested by Jerry. Went and got my glasses ordered this week, and Jerry was the optometrist that helped us out and made a suggestion of I keep losing my dog and my purse. So there's that page, and thanks for that suggestion, Jerry. And then this is the ancient hidden city of myth. What if this is from the conspiracy theory stream that I did about a year ago now, where we all talked about random conspiracies. And so this would be one of them, that there's a secret city that's within the Grand Canyon that was founded by Egyptians. So there's that. Hi, Linda. How you doing? Corbin is upstairs sleeping in Lori's office today. Mom's home, so why spend time with Dad? Anyways, but I'll pass it on to him. All right. So here we go. Bingo. So I'm going to kick on. I didn't click it. Well, let's try clicking it. All right. There we go. So I got some paper laid out here. I was thinking, so I've been doing a lot of pieces recently, classic images and things like that. And it's important to step outside of that comfort area. It's important to step outside of that typical way that you work. I draw this way with this tool, and sometimes your productivity will change if you can just give yourself the opportunity to apply it in a different way. Your creative engine, that is. And so in this regard, what I'm referring to is the images that I've been doing in chalk, and also coincidentally in acrylic. Well, it's not so much a coincidence, I did it on purpose, but doing those things has sort of helped to open up my headspace on, just rekindling my energy for pages. Another way you can do that is to look back on stuff that you've already done and sort out the wherefore and why you think this is successful or you think that is successful, and looking at those things in that way can, again, open up your headspace. So I've got some paper down here, but what I thought I might do is I've got a bunch of colored sheets. So I thought maybe let's try something on a colored piece of paper. So let me get a clip. I had a clip. I'm going to get a clip. There we go. This is a clip. His name is Steven. Anyways, so I've got this purple piece of paper. Purple piece of paper. So there we go. So I thought we might try to look at doing a page on this. And so what I've got for some tools for that is a little smorgasbord of, there's a black colored pencil, a gray colored pencil, and a white colored pencil, as well as a white China marker. Let's see what this adds to the flavor. But this is what I'm going to use, and we're going to do today's page this way. I have misplaced a sharpener. Just give me 1 second. Boy, get organized, Chris. What's your deal, guy? I just ran out and did some errands. We're back now. Ta-da. So it's important to have a sharpener on hand so that while you're working, you can, tighten that point up. Okay, so hi everybody that's jumped in. Those of you that are watching after the fact. So what I'm talking about when I've been doing sort of classic, it's some studies of Michelangelo and Putti and Caravaggio, and just, kind of getting some of that old classic energy to sort of, get me inspired. So I thought we'd continue on in that kind of a vein for today's page. I'll pull a suggestion out of the book, and I've covered up the book. Tried to make some piles that I have on my desk even. So I put my book in one pile just so that it would even out the pile beside it. Silly business. Okay. Some of the older ones I still got to finish up. Oh, we've done that. That one's done. I'm going to check that sucker off. Bing bong. Laurel and Hardy at a rave. I think that's a lovely idea. Anyways. Yeah, let's do Made in Canada, and that's from Linda. Made in Canada is today's suggestion from Linda. And yeah, we're going to crack it on this. So I've got our tools right here over at the side of where I'm working. You can't see them because it only puts the center part of the whole frame in here, just so that it's closer so you can see what I'm actually working on. Yeah, so thought what I'd do is I'm going to take some of the stuff that I've been doing where I'm reinterpreting some of these old classic pieces, I'm going to implement that kind of a structure into today's page. So where I'm drawing our characters, I'm going to do them in such a way as to, as I would were at a classic painting. So I'm just going to allow those lines to kind of come out, and I'm going to approach the image. Like, first off, I'm drawing the light first, and then I'm going to approach that image as though I'm trying to give it a sort of finish, like I was doing it in the 1600s or something. Made in Canada is today's suggestion. Thank you, Linda, putting that up. So yeah, I dropped off the triptych that I did last week of the creation. This last week. It's still this week I did that. The creation of Adam study for Michelangelo. I dropped that off. So I'm looking at the planes of the face as I'm drawing this information down, so that the areas that are more raised are going to be lighter than the areas that are more recessed. It took me a while to figure out that word recessed is the one that I've always been looking for. So one of the things about studying, when you're doing something like studying classic works and reinterpreting those, one of the things that I've picked up on is draw statues, and ideally draw unfinished statues, because you'll see this fantastic thing where it shows all of the hash marks, the chisel marks, and the different directional lines that they go in order to create the surface area of whatever the carving is, if it's an animal, if it's a person, whatever. And so you'll see different marks going this way, and different marks going that way, and different marks going this way. And all of those little directional lines, it's a really great way to help get an understanding of planes in the face. And, you can see which areas are raised or recessed, and according to how dense some of those chisel marks might be, there'll be a smoother area where there's more of a raised surface, and then you can see a little bit more chisel marks because of how the shadow works in relationship to the chisels, chisel strikes, and stuff like that is really beneficial. It's free school, folks. Free school. Free school is the best. two reasons free school's the best. It forces you to get a good grasp on things on your own, and without, now that's not to say that people, educators, I'm not against educators or the educational system as a whole, but when you're sitting down and taking the time to force yourself to, to reacquaint yourself or to educate yourself with existing ideas and approaches to creativity, you're going to come at approaches that are entirely your own. Now, with that in mind, sometimes those approaches could be more efficient, they could be more effective, but at the same time, those approaches may well be something so far outside of the box of the existing system that it shortcuts some of that learning time for you as well. Different methodology in place that others might not have considered. There used to be a whole thing in the art education where they would put statues and flower pots and things like that in the center of the room, and hey, everybody draw that thing. And that, which is great, but as long as it's not, there's a specific expectation of the outcome, because I think the specific expectation of the outcome, everybody should draw the exact same way, strips away the growth pattern for the individuals doing so. Get the fundamentals in there if that's what the objective lesson is, but at the same time, it's important that people find their own voice, right? So, have some fun, do some things. Ah, yeah. Hey, Liz, how you doing? Look at all those waving hands. It's fantastic. So I'm drawing this character in the foreground and applying some highlighted areas on the face as I go, finding out where the light or the glare hits them a little bit, maybe the shiny parts of their face, they're sweating, I don't know. But the lighter areas, the thicker application of the white raises that surface towards you, and the less pushes that back. So there you go. But there's all kinds of little fun noodles that we're going to learn about from applying ourselves this way that we might not figure out when we're drawing traditional black line art on a white surface. This helps you to identify a couple things that you may not have. I'm trying to think of this, if this is, one would consider this reverse of regular drawing or not. I don't know. It's just another way to put marks down on the surface. But so I'm going to have our person in the foreground, and I'm going to have a person in the background. Now, I've been sitting down the last few days, and I've been looking at some. John Byrne is a large name in sequential illustration in the last 50 or so years, and I've been looking at, he's done a project where he's no longer working for the mainstream, and yet at the same time he had an itch he needed to scratch, and so he continued doing stories of the book that he worked on in the 1970s, 80s, and maybe early 80s, and he continued doing those stories. 33 issues of them, continuing on where it left off, where he left the title. He made a subjective change for the outcome of the book as he left it, and then just continued the narrative on from that point, which I think is a lot of fun. But it's I've been reading those in the last 2 days and enjoying those a lot. But they're available online. You can find them online. They're free. But it's John Byrne continuing his X-Men stories from the 1970s, around the time he left the title. And they're crazy, but what I've been picking up from him, and this John Byrne's not to be confused with, even though he's also from Britain, this John Byrne isn't to be confused with the fine art painter John Byrne. But what I've been picking up on the way he draws is that there's an awful lot of the way that he sees structure within the face, and he understands that this is where cheek is, this is where that is. He has a fantastic affinity for drawing different types of characters, different densities, different, ethnicities, things like that. And yet at the same time, he manages to have a uniformity in his creative expression that's surprising to me. How you doing, Ink on Paper? Welcome aboard. Oh, it's good to see you. It's Robert. Hey, Robert. Nice. Good to see you. Yeah, there's a uniformity in how he draws everybody, despite the fact that he has an absolute fantastic ability to have clear renditions of individuals in their own regard. So that's just been something that's sort of sticking in my craw, because I'm often trying to draw different, ethnicities, different genders, and different densities of people, and how we're all different, all wonderfully not the same as the next person beside us, and it's sort of, even a person who is sometimes considered to be a formulaic artist in this sequential artist, John Byrne. No, he's not. Look again. Realize the great attribution that he puts into other people's work. Sure, that he wishes he could draw like ABC, but at the same time, give some recognition to the fact that he himself has a fantastic affinity for drawing different ethnicities and body types. And it's kind of neat. We don't think too deeply about this stuff when we're younger, but then we start to look at it in a completely different way as we get older. Especially if you've been doing some of the things that you enjoy yourself as you get older. When you start cooking, you start realizing that what works specifically for your palate, and you start applying those actively in your ingredients for the food that you make. Drawing the picatures, not too much different there. I'm going to try putting in a little bit of gray here. See what that gives us. I don't often throw gray down with the white. I already don't know if I'm a fan or not. Sometimes I just feel like that makes it dirty. Dirty. Well, we're trying stuff out today. Always experimenting, right? Right. I tend not to use, if I'm going to use black and white, I'll just make all my gray tones with the black, as opposed to the application of an actual gray. Because I think I'm going to get more interesting values from the black pencil. Somebody asked me a couple of days ago now if, because they noticed that I don't use black when I'm working in color a lot. Because and some people have a real aversion to it. But for me, it's just a case of, I like to make black out of an umber and a blue. I tend to like making my blacks just because I prefer them to be a little more transparent and less opaque. Okay. I'm saying welcome to everybody. Linda Rins, the moderator with the mostest. Thanks, Linda. So yeah, drawing on this is a paper. It's sort of it's like a construction paper, but a really nice one. More of a drawing paper, really. And yeah, it does the job. Yeah, putting the mark on the paper there, and there you go. So I'm picking and choosing these little spots with the black. I don't want it to overpower the whole image. Although saying that, I consider doing the hair as this sort of black solid, like a black void area. We'll see. I'll make that decision in a moment. For the time being, I think I'm just going to work with the black as an outline. Rather than filling all the hair in. So we got to think about the shape of the head as we do that, of course, because if you're not filling in the value, if you're not filling in the entirety of the space, you want to make sure that you have a solid comprehension of it. So I thought my idea is this is a, oh no, John, kind of a pose, which is a silly name for it, where you have a soap opera where one character stands beside the other one or behind the other one, and the other one stands here and looks off just to the side or out to the window, and they talk with their back to the other person. What are you telling your feelings for me, Louisa? And she says, yes. And she closes her eyes and looks away. Ugh. Typical soap opera nonsense. But that high drama, that elevated state of drama, is just the ideal amount of drama to encapsulate every bit of cheesy emotion that's going through that character, but in a really transferable way so that the audience at home, it's a nice heightened response from them so that nobody at home misses that whatever it is that she's telling Guy, or whatever macho name is assigned to him, how she feels by staring out a window, as one may well do. Linda says, it's Liz that says this. What music do you listen to while doing art? All kinds of different stuff. There's a number of different composers I like to listen to, like Berlioz and Mozart and Beethoven and so on. But at the same time, I like listening to bands like Radiohead, from the really experimental period that came up after during Kid A, the album Kid A, where it's less about, because it's a band with 3 guitars, and it just becomes less of a rock and roll guitar album, and they start using their guitars in very different experimental ways, and it's really kind of neat. But I grew up on Zeppelin and prog rock like Yes and so forth, so I like a little bit of everything. Sing along at the top of my lungs with Air Supply. That band for the kids? Yeah. Nothing like a supply of air to keep us going. See, I could have been coy. I could have said, what do I listen to while I'm working? Nothing but LRB. Oh, yeah. Somebody out there is going to know what that is. Somebody out there is going to know what LRB is. All right. That I like, what? Now that I mention LRB, another band that I actually like more than LRB, which has the exact same vibe, is 10cc. Those guys are bonkers. And then in addition to that, 2 of them, Godley and Cream, 2 of the guys from 10cc, went and did one of the songs that I absolutely detested for a good period that it was on the music video channel, Much Music here in Canada. And it's a song called Cry, and the video was so awful. It's just all these intercuts of people singing the lyrics of the song, and blubbering the entire time. Like the becomes more and more pronounced over the period of the video that these people are crying more and more passionately. And Godly and Cream themselves are in there singing along with the song as it goes. But it's such an over the top video. I at times in my life have loved it and hated it, just detested it. Liz says, never heard of it. You never heard of LRB? Little River Band is who I'm referring to. Little River Band. You know, for the hardcore music that it is. So I'm just using this ruler here in order to give me a guideline of where I want really this panel, or more specifically this character, to end. I don't know if this is conscious or unconscious, but she looks like, oh, I can't remember the name of the actress now. She was in that Game of Thrones program as this queen that was in it, and she was quite eccentric, and there was a problematic relationship with, a familial relationships. Like her family's just bonkers and quite complicated. One of them's a dwarf. Anyways. CCR, what does that stand for? Don't answer that. Everybody knows what CCR stands for. And if you don't, anyways. I think that most people that like CCR, like Fogerty's solo stuff, I've never met anybody that, I mean, sure, they probably prefer one to the other, but I've never seen anybody that just, hates the one and not the other. It's you either like them both or you don't, it seems. I have met people that have a preference for which Supertramp singer that they like more, which I've always thought was interesting. Because so many of their songs are about the interplay of their voices, But they don't get along, and they're not a band. They haven't been for a long time. Roger Hudson tours by himself. So I'm just putting in some of the hard value hits here. Yep. So there's our first character, and in behind her I'm going to draw the person that she's in conversation with. And I'm channeling my best soap opera motif here. Peter Gabriel or Phil Collins for Genesis? Well, it depends on age, really, that one. Older, you tend to prefer Gabriel. Because, we tend to think more highly of the things that in our formative stages were what was going on, as opposed to once we've developed and then that carries on. Like, if your formative stage was when Peter Gabriel was a singer, you like Peter Gabriel more as a Genesis singer. But if you're, 70s, say, and if it's 80s, you tend to prefer Collins, just because they were very, very popular at the time. With the puppets. The puppets. There was a program on the BBC called, I think it was called Splitting Heirs. Something like that, I think it was. And basically there was this company that was making all of these sort of portraits of different politicians and historic characters and performers and things like that, and so their whole show would be, I think it was politically oriented, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been a while since I saw it. And Genesis did a music video called "The World We Live In" or something like that, and they had all of these Ronald Reagan puppets and so on and so forth in the video. Land of Confusion, that's what it was Land of Confusion. What record album cover did you like the most? Oh, that's easy. The Snake from Asia. Oh. No. I liked, growing up, I liked a lot of Roger Dean albums. He did a lot of the illustrated albums for Yes. And I thought his albums were pretty cool. I thought Led Zeppelin 1 was a neat album cover. Jethro Tull's Aqualung is a neat album cover. And then there's contemporary things like, Kid A by Radiohead's a neat cover. Or Pearl Jam's had a few really interesting covers. Robert says, Eddie. Is that Iron Maiden, Eddie? Is that all the different Iron Maiden covers with the same different interpretations of the same character through time in accordance to songs that are on the album? The Aces High, mini record, the 45 of that, had an Eddie cover where he's dressed in as an airplane pilot. And Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is all Egyptian themed art. And, they had all kinds of really interesting albums. But I wasn't a big fan of the art itself. I thought that the concept stuff is really interesting to me, but I wasn't a fan of the paintings themselves. And then, they tidied up more and more as the albums went on. But the early ones were kind of rough. The paintings, the artist really hadn't found their hadn't refined their mark making as yet. But like the albums, any band where the entire forward lineup of the band all puts their feet up on the amps that, the preamps, the ones that are facing them so they can hear what they're playing. And they all put their feet up at the same time and look at the audience. Yeah. Good stuff. There's a really great New Order video. I think it's Blue Monday. I think it's called Blue Monday. And there's a fantastic video that's entirely modulations of geometric forms. And so it goes dun 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 dun. There's this inner wheel, and it's following this pattern from this instrument, and then a dum 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 dum, and this other little modulation goes on around it in its own, oscillatory pattern, and then you've got other, boom, 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 and these little bursts of geometric shapes that come out of the center as this interior ones are still oscillating, and I've always thought that was just phenomenal. It's look it up if you will. It's New Order. I think it's Blue Monday. I think it is, but take a look for their video on the interwebs. You'll find it. It's just, you'll see it. It's just a circle of mandelic shapes, and they're going around in conjunction with the music. of course, Aha, they had an amazing video. And it was the same as the album cover, but I found the album cover boring. There's a Sonic Youth album. I think it might be the album called Goo, of all things. And it has a really simplistic illustration of a couple of cool kids in a car. And I always liked the simplicity of that. I've always found that to be a pretty good album cover art. But certain things are synonymous of an age, Joshua Tree from U2, or the whole photography of an environment, a sparse environment. That's U2's branding for the Unforgettable Fire and Joshua Tree. And it's an interesting direction to go. That band's got a really edgy guitarist. I mean that, in a literal way. I'm interested, me blathering on here, I'm interested in what other people's favorite record album covers were. I also like that cover of Gord's Gold. Look up old Gordon Lightfoot albums, and you'll see a cover called Gord's Gold, and there you go, BTO, just the letters. Bob Seger in a Silver Bullet Band. It's just a blurry depiction of them on stage. Just waves of value as he's moving, and the aperture isn't open enough to capture all of his movements, so it just looks like splashes of light. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question, that's for sure. That's the same for Depeche Mode. They had some pretty cool album covers that were, really open to. There's no clearly defined branding through the album cover. It's just an image of a scene. Some Great Reward is a boat, like a cruise ship with a couple on, up along the railing. And how does that sell that album? I don't know. So I'm drawing in the fellow who's standing behind her saying, what are you saying to me here, Leslie? And she says, I gotta be honest with you, Rodrigo. I don't like when you put mayonnaise in all of our food. I'm a man, Leslie. I put mayonnaise in food. Well, I'm a wool man. Or whatever their conversation is. Probably makes more sense than the one that I've just come up with. So I'm filling in the values of the surface areas, the light, the areas that are lit up. And I'm leaving out the intermediate spaces and the spaces for the dark. How did I choose my book cover? Which one? Well, I'll let you in on a secret for all of them. Well, the last three, anyways, the hardcovers are online. One Page Story Extravaganza #1, those are all versions of me. And all of them are done in different medium. So, let me see, I'll grab one. And I don't have my proof in front of me of Alphabet Book because somebody's borrowing my proof right now. So, #1, all of the characters that are on the cover is little iterations of me drawn in different medium. So, there's inks, there's markers, there's black and white line art, there's pen, there's pencil crayon. So it's just playing with application. This one's painted in. So, and then the comic from this that I did about the process, which is what this page was about. This is in volume number 2. And again, this is Clunk. This is cartoon versions of me slipping on a banana peel and rolling back off the cover again, falling into the cover and then rolling back off. And, you know, you put a whole bunch of these covers side by side and I just keep perpetually falling and rolling. But this will be in One Page Extravaganza Volume 3. This actual page that this is from. But this was chosen as the cover because, again, it's sort of, the idea is that multiple little stories, multiple little iterations of ideas. And then on Alphabet Book, on the cover of that hardcover that's on Amazon, it's the sneaky deceptive thing in that is that I've got just a whole bunch of different characters and spread around on the page that represent a number of the stories that are in the book. But they're all holding up a sheet of paper, and each of those sheets of paper have a letter on them. And if one looks very closely and fills in the missing parts, it's my name. They're spelling each page. They're spelling, if you read it from left to right and roll through it, it'll spell my name. So it's just playing. It's always playing, always having fun doing something. You know what album might be my favorite cover album of all time? It's a toss-up between two records that are indelibly printed on my brain. One is Get the Knack, because the 4 guys on the cover album of Get the Knack, it's just a portrait of the 4 members of the band. They look crazy, and all I could think about when I saw that was how these guys, they look like maniacs on that cover. And the album is called The Knack, and the title of it is Get the Knack. That lives in my head rent free. And of course, the other one is Men at Work. Business as usual. Those 2 album covers, for whatever reason, I don't think are ever... I wouldn't say that they're the best cover albums, but they're the ones that just live in my head rent free. Like, those are the ones that, for whatever reason, and it's probably because of formulative development and tastes in music, you know, that I was going through. That's the reason that these 2 kind of stick in there. I never owned, until I was an adult, well, older anyways, I never owned the Knack album because as a kid I thought it was too creepy. They're the guys that sang My Sharona, by the way. Who's Sharona? My Sharona, that's who. One of those great songs that, if you listen to it sung by people publicly, the majority of the lyrics are not included in the actual song. It's one of those songs that's so easy to phrasically to rhyme that people make up their my mind Sharona as opposed to whatever they're probably actually singing. So filling in the space and leaving out areas like this in here so that I can come in and be really picky about there's a little black application that just push that section there back. You know, it's just sort of a fun way of approaching the images, the characters here. This is another thing I like to do, is put an inside line for the highlights. So say there's this really bright value over the shoulder. I'm going to leave a thin little line in between that value and the white background value. Did anybody own the Knack? Get the Knack? I'm trying to think of what other albums would be commensurate to that song, My Sharona. Because it's an album, you buy the whole record for one song, right? I guess Seven and a Ragged Tiger is another record like that. From Duran Duran. Duran Duran, by the way, where they got that name from is that's the villain's name in the movie Barbarella. Which is why when I was a teenager, I wanted to start a band called Zaphod Beeblebrox. Zaphod Beeblebrox is a name that we're trying to figure out a name for this group of us who are playing together. And why do we call ourselves Zaphod Beeblebrox? But the rest of my friends weren't avid readers as sci-fi as I was, and so they didn't get the reference and thought it was a stupid name. I'm like, a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? So instead, we settled on Chester Polyester and the Incredible Fruit Basket. Ah, yes. Youth. Midnight Oil's album cover is pretty cool. Beds Are Burning. I had to go to the desert to take that, which is not that hard to do because they're from the Outback. So I'm drawing. He's looking off in the same direction as she's looking off to disconnect their conversation from one another just a little bit more. So I'm just finding the outside line of his hair here. And then I'll just fill him in there. Contrast around the side of the head there. Yeah, so this is my soap opera page today. Liz's favorite album is the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Oh, Lonely Hearts Club. Yeah, it's a great cover. The Beatles, man, they had a whole bunch of really fantastic covers. You know, for the longest time, my favorite Beatles song was 1, 2, 3, 4, can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I love you. Just not Beatles a Beatles song, anyways. And their other album, one of my other favorites, is It's Been a Hard Day's Rut. I'm a nerd. So now I'm going to put in some folds and creases in the fabric. The pressure, more or less, of it raises or pushes back a space, so you can start to define form by just using different values of the same, or different strengths of the same value, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. It's a great stachio this guy's got. I like his stash. I haven't had a mustache in a long, long time. Yeah. Yeah, Sgt. Pepper's a great example. What was the album? What was the Beatles album that was There's two versions. There's one, it's all cuts of meat, and I think the other is the same album. The other pressing of it was it Baby Dolls, all chopped up. I can't remember what it was, but it was way too confrontational for people. So there's two versions of that record cover out, and one is highly sought after and collectible, and the other is the standard. I can't tell you which one's which. I would think that the bits of meat would be, because all this dolls chopped up. It's dark. This dark, man, dark. So I'm just finishing off drawing this guy in. There's a part of me that kind of wants to leave a lot of these panels open-ended. As soon as I can establish him standing behind her, I don't know that I necessarily need to draw all of it. Jump Around, great label cover. Fine malt lyrics. Jump Around? Is that the one? Jump around, jump up and get down. Oh, the Jump Around. Oh, okay, I know what you're referring to. Yeah. Does anybody know what A Hard Day's Rut is from? Have I talked about this before? Really cool film made from about it. Now I got Beatles songs going through my head. Here, hopefully that's conveying. The animals had weird images too. Oh yeah. Uploaded that at warehouse. So fun seeing guys with big boots. Say Steve S. Start jumping. That song's awesome, bud. Jump up and get down. Yeah. What's really interesting is when you see a guy driving on like a big motorcycle, and he's playing something like "Wing and Whack will make you." He's going down the highway. Jump, jump. Big guy, burly biker guy. Guy kind of looks like Frank Frazetta. Or not Frank Frazetta, Frank Zappa. Where are you going, John? Because I'm going to move to Montana soon. Ba-da-da-da. Frank Zappa is somebody that didn't carry over very well. I don't know a lot of young people have ever heard of Frank Zappa, which is sad. Because everybody should listen to Cletus Ritus Auritus. That's the album where the Huskies, watch out where the Huskies go, don't you eat that yellow snow. what is it? I think he says, it's right about that time, people. We're a fur trader who's strictly from commercials. Had the unmitigated audacity to jump up at me from behind an igloo. And then the whole band goes, peekaboo. Oh, that sounds ridiculous. On YouTube right now, somebody has made a history of humankind for the last 12,000 years, narrated by Marvin the Robot from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, I'd recommend for you to listen to it and enjoy it, but, honestly, why bother? Which is a really great Marvin the Robot joke. Marvin is a robot with depression. They started creating robots that mimicked human emotions. And Marvin was a prototype, and they almost scrapped the whole program. Because he's chronically depressed. What about Donovan's Mellow Yellow? There's another one. Oh, yeah. Did you ever, speaking of Donovan, I don't know why this makes me think of this, but Donovan always makes me think of Tony Orlando and Don. Just for whatever reason, just probably because of the same time period. But did you ever see the cover album for Yellow Ribbon? Tie a yellow ribbon around that old oak tree. Don is the two backup singers. I didn't know that as a kid growing up. I didn't know that Don was the two ladies. I thought one of them was named Don. But they're dawn, like the morning, Anyways, I bet you can guess where they are in that cover album. And if you said peeking from behind a tree, you're right. All right, so here's our couple coming in here now, and I think I'm going to have him hands on belt buckle, just because that seems macho enough. But so this is the page that I'll be posting for Monday. So today I posted a twofer of two different pages because I was unable to stream yesterday. So I posted yesterday's page and today's page as well. But I'll be posting a whole bunch of things on Patreon. Just because I want to catch up here. I've got a ton of stuff that's all done. It's literally a case of how do I go about, posting these. And, so I've been trying to meter some of it out on a daily basis, like the page about the dog and the purse I did yesterday. The other page is old. It's an old page, that it just hadn't had a chance to post yet. So, and I got a whole bunch more of those because, you get busy. So I'll be posting those. And then I try to show what the original drawings look like or so forth on Patreon as well, whenever I can, unless I've not drawn it digitally or, I've plumbed from 5 or 6 different places, just random drawings on pages to make a page. That doesn't, it's not conducive to posting the original art because it's all over the place. All over the place. So yeah, so I'll be putting a lot of those together. All right. Well, here is the start of our first panel. Our 2 characters looking off into the great unknown. It's a macho guy and his lady friend. Got the tucked in t-shirt. That's what I'm trying to draw here, is the tucked in t-shirt look. The big belt. Very 1970s. I'm leaning on something too. Okay, yeah. So here's a good feeling, good start for today's page. I think that I know I've got an appointment I got to take off for, but I will be back on Monday. I was gonna see if I could pop in and do something this weekend, but I think that I'm gonna be too busy. So, with my hip hop happening lifestyle, word up. So there you get the gist of the competition, or the composition, anyways. There we go. So that'll be our first page. I'm going to put, him standing here, maybe a bit of a couch peeking through behind him or something like that. But there we go. Yeah, if try this out. Try drawing on a dark surface with a light value and see what that does for you. See if you find some interesting skills that you're going to develop from that, or see if there's interesting things that come to mind and how you interpret the image in space. Like you're not able to graph out the shape language that comes together to make up your objects and your people. So you have to sort of think about that in your head and account for it on the paper as you're going. And sometimes that can force us to expand. And is it going to look perfect the first time? No. 723rd time? Probably not. We're always going to be more critical than anybody else that's assessing what we're doing. So don't worry too much about that. But I think I might leave us off there. And thank you, everybody, for letting me blather on at you about music, and for everybody engaging in the chat today, and coming out and hanging out together. And to Linda, the moderator at the mostest. All right, that's about it for me for today, folks. I hope everybody has a good weekend. I'll be back Monday, 2 p.m. EST, which I understand is 11 a.m. PST. Well, the more you know. Anyhow, all right. Thanks, gang. Everybody have a great day, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Bye for now.